Ladies and gentlemen, announcing the arrival of Prof. Muhammad Hashim Kamali, founding CEO of the International Institute of Advanced Islamic Studies, IAIS Malaysia, Dr. Mahmoud Baizi, Director for the Center of Advanced Studies, University of Tehran, accompanied by distinguished guests and speakers for today's seminar. Please be seated. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh and salam sejahtera. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the IAIS Conference Hall for our seminar today on the role of religion in the quest for peaceful coexistence, jointly organized by IAIS Malaysia, the University of Tehran, the Cultural Center of the Embassy of the Islamic Republic of Iran in Kuala Lumpur, and the Asia West East Center. Greetings of peace to you and a warm welcome to this event. Before we begin, let us all ask Allah's blessing with the recitation of dua. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. O Allah, we ask you for the goodness of this ceremony, the goodness of its guests and participants, and for all the goodness found within it. There is no good except your good, and none has the right to be worshipped except you. We ask you for steadfastness in the affair, and we ask you for the determination upon guidance. And we ask you to make us grateful for your favor and excellence in worshipping you. And we ask you for a truthful tongue and a sound heart. And we seek refuge in you from the evil of what you know. And we ask you for the good of what you know. And we seek your forgiveness for that which you know. Verily, you are the knower of all that is hidden. O Allah, make us fearful of you, whether in secret or in public. And we ask you to make us and our families true in speech, in times of pleasure and anger. We ask you to make us moderates in times of wealth and poverty. And we ask you for everlasting bliss and joy, which will never cease. We ask you to make us pleased with what you have decreed, and for an easy life after death. We ask you for the sweetness of looking upon your face and a longing to encounter you in a manner which does not entail a calamity. O Allah, beautify us with the adornment of faith and make us of those who guide and are rightly guided. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Amin. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. To begin today's event, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Muhammad Hashim Kamali, founding CEO of IAIS Malaysia, to deliver his welcoming remarks.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and good morning. First of all, I would like to warmly welcome all our distinguished guests, respected speakers, participants, and those who are here to deliberate over a vital issue, about the vital issue of peace. We know that the Muslim world, the world generally, is beset with conflicts after conflicts. Conflicts are started, but solutions are not found. And the scope is not diminishing. It is, on the contrary, on the increase. Unfortunately, also, these conflict countries and communities happen to be mainly Muslim. And partly due to the hostile propaganda and disinformation about Islam. We have witnessed this earlier in colonial times, and then in the last few decades, radical movements, and then militarism and 9/11, and after that the scale of hostility kept on increasing. And hostile media has managed somehow to give Islam a kind of profile that can never be acceptable to the vast majority of Muslims, associating Islam with violence, with terrorism and war. Whereas the wars, most of the wars are started by others, and the Muslims are reacting. Karen Armstrong was commenting in an article about colonialism and after, and why there is so much conflict. And that was due to violence mainly originated by Western countries. Muslims are mainly at the receiving end. Islam's close affinity with peace begins with its name, its very name. Islam means two meanings, either submission or peace. But peace is at the center, whichever meaning you take. Submission and peace, they are closely connected with one another. Islam's basic principles are closely associated with peace. The 5 pillars of Islam, for example, the kalima shahada, salat, giving charity in zakat, going to the hajj, and fasting. All of these not only are peaceful, but they are designed to contribute to peace in society. You look at the 6 fundamentals of Iman. Amantu billahi wa kutubihi wa rusulihi wal yawmil akhiri wal qadri khairihi wa sharrihi min Allah ta'ala wal ba'si ba'da al-maut. 6 pillars of Iman. Iman begins with the state of mind and faith. And then every Muslim, that I believe in God, my Creator, and in His messengers, wa kutubihi wa rusulihi, in plural. This is a recognition of Islam, of the other messages and great prophets and religions. This recognition is essential. If you recognize, you mean that we are committed to peaceful coexistence because we share the essentials of your belief. Now, Islam attaches a great deal of importance in the teachings of the Quran and Hadith to pleasant manners, khuluq hasan. The weightiest of the acts of a Muslim, according to a hadith, is khuluq hasan. to have a pleasant encounter, like in society you encounter another fellow Muslim with salam. Salam is exactly peace. And then you have so many other statements of commitment to peace, even a word, kalima tayyiba, and that you speak in a pleasant manner to another fellow human being. This is a form of charity. So Iman entrenches peace from within, and Islam manifests that state. That is the identity of Islam itself and of the personality of a Muslim. Islam, among the priority of commitments and values, commits Muslim to humility, avoidance of arrogance, help to the needy and help those who are in need. And then a religion that could make priority of commitments to compassion, to rahmah, to adl, to justice, and to ihsan, beneficence, and being good to others. How can this religion be then introduced as a religion of violence? Is there a connection? Is there a connection? I think that the vast majority of Muslims cannot accept the kind of negative profile that we see in recent years of Islam being depicted. Jihad has taken a military dimension. Originally, jihad in the first 12 years of the Prophet's mission in Mecca, the Muslims were not allowed even to respond to violence. There was a great deal of abuse and vilification of those minorities of Muslims, but they were not allowed to even defend themselves in violent ways. And when the Prophet migrated, is this an act of violence or is it an act of a peaceful withdrawal? That is a historical event. Then there were two battles, the Battle of Badr and Uhud. And they were not started by Muslims. It was the Quraysh who came 270 kilometers from Mecca to Medina to attack Muslims. And then it was in those times that the Quranic verse was revealed. أُذِنَ لِلَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُونَ بِأَنَّهُمْ ظُلِمُوا. Permission was granted to those to fight because they were oppressed. They were victims of injustice. Unfortunately, jihad in the Quran, وَجَاهِدْ بِهِمْ جِهَادًا كَبِيرًا. وَجَاهِدْ بِهِ جِهَادًا كَبِيرًا. This is the Quranic verse that you do jihad by the Quran, the greatest jihad. That is where Al-Jihad Al-Akbar acquired its name. And there are two types of jihad, Jihad Akbar and Jihad Asghar. When the Prophet returned from one of those battles, he said this, رَجَعْنَا مِنَ الْجِهَادِ الْأَصْغَرِ إِلَى جِهَادِ الْأَكْبَرِ. We, from a minor jihad, we returned to the major jihad. The major jihad was justice and the values to which Islam is committed, to make this, to integrate this, and to make it a reality of the Muslim life. And then, of course, battles and conflicts started, and the original meaning of jihad became suppressed after the dynastic times and prevalence of violence, unfortunately, and a corrective is needed. And I believe it would be our jihad to put that corrective and give Islam and introduce Islam for what it is. And I believe that this is the purpose of our deliberation and coming together today. If I am to describe this as a form of jihad, it will not be an exaggeration. I think that there is too much militarism, too much conflict, too much bloodshed. It is not acceptable. And I think that that is a commitment for us as Muslims, as peaceful people, those who are committed to peaceful coexistence. Unless there is peace among religions, there can be no real peace. It has been recognized very clearly. And I think that is the truth. We need to make this an active engagement, not just be recipients of misinformation, but to speak out. I will not continue because there are distinguished speakers from very distinguished institutions and organizations. And I look forward to their contributions to a fruitful engagement. Assalamu alaikum, and peace be with you. Assalamu.
Thank you, Professor Kamali, for the remarks. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Mahmoud Vaizi, Director for the Center of Advanced Studies, University of Tehran, to deliver his welcoming remarks.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the beneficent, the merciful, Master of the day of resurrection. You do we serve and you do we beseech for help. Keep us on the right path, the path of those upon whom you have bestowed your favors, not of those upon whom your wrath is brought down, nor of those who go astray. Allahumma salli ala Ali ibn Musa al-Rida بعدد ما أحاط به علمك. It's a very great pleasure for me to be with you today, distinguished professors, His Excellency, the founding CEO and Director of IAIS, Professor Kamali, and His Excellency's Professor Muhammad Azam, Deputy Director and Cultural Counselor of Islamic Republic of Iran, and all professors and students. Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullah. At the beginning, I would like to convey you the best regards on behalf of His Eminence Hujjatul Islam Raisi, Grand Custodian of Astana Quds Radawi in Mashhad, and also my colleagues in Center of Higher Studies of University of Tehran and professors of the Faculty of Theology and Islamic Sciences, and wish health and daily progress for this nation and government of Malaysia. Based on its academic and scientific mission, University of Tehran, as one of the old and large universities of Asia, is pleased to establish research with the old and culture-living country, with a people of good thinking and ethics and a powerful government in Asia, and distinguished professors of universities of Malaysia and IAIS. initial step of holding such a fruitful common symposium under the title of the role of religion in the quest for peaceful coexistence, emphasizing on Razavi's teachings between Center of Higher Studies of University of Tehran and IAIS is a valuable step, and we hope with the mutual responsibility taking, it could lead to a useful and efficient result for both countries. The deep links and ties between the two countries, more than historical and regional relations, dates back to restoring the Holy Quran and tradition and Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. And we believe this resort to them is an eternal capital and valuable for the perfection and salvation of both large and civilized nations in this world and in hereafter. Quran has taught us that we should accept the previous revelation, as well as the doctor said, which sent down to Christianity, to Judaism, to other religions and Abrahamic teachings, as well as in chapter Baqarah, Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, قُلْ وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ وَمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ. You should believe to whatever revelation we send to you and whatever revelation we have sent down to previous prophets. In Islam, this is the first step, and enjoin us to respect the other religions and to follow the principle of dialogue with all addresses to talk in order to provide interest and joint understanding. The Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, who was the good model and the best servant of God, used to tell to infidels of Mecca such this sentence. He said that, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وإنا أو إياكم لعلى هدى أو في ضلال مبين. It means that I or you are right or a vivid deviation. 4 pictures, 4 sections it has that we will talk about in my article, inshallah. This means that it's possible that you or me be right or wrong. It's observed that this is the discourse and ethic of Prophet of God in his talks with infidels, those who had grown up with the capacity and lack of ethics of ignorance age. In such a manner, the Holy Prophet attained the best ethics. وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. His way of life and also his progeny, Ahlul Bayt, specifically period of Imam Rida, peace be upon him, who lived in the end of 2nd century after Hijrah, shows us that they have not ignored dialogue with the different religions, let alone Muslim brothers and human community anytime. They had an intellect-oriented dialogues, rationality in action with the followers of various religions and thoughts, not in the words, but in an action. It's very important that we will talk about that. What does mean rationality? It's very important. Sometimes we believe, we suppose that rationality is something in our thought, in our mental. No, it should be in action, in your behavior. It's very important. We will talk about in my article. They had an intellect-oriented dialogues, rationality in action with the followers of various religions and thoughts, not in the words, as well as Imam Riza, peace be upon him, said, intellect is the friend of each human and ignorance is enemy of each human. صديق كل امرئ عقله وعدوه جهله. Ignorance is your enemy and intellect is your friend. So every behavior, every social bilateral cooperation should be based on rationality and intellect, as well as he said. Or he said that, and also states, وَلَا دِينَ لِمَنْ لَا عَقْلَ لَهُ. There is no religion for a person who has not reason and intellect. It's very important. The one who does not have intellect does not have a religion. These good teachings should be noticed generally by human communities and specifically by the followers of all religions as a model to preserve peaceful coexistence and reinforce effective and constructive relation with each other. Thank you very much. Once again, I should present my thanks and appreciations to the honorable host and guest, and I hope we continue our session and the next visit be in University of Tehran. Having a nice time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mahmoud Vaizi, for the remarks. And now, to start off our first session, I would like to invite the speakers to take their respective seats on the stage. I would like to invite Mr. Muhammad Azmi Abdul Hamid, President of MAPIM, Dr. Mahmoud Vaizi, again from the University of Tehran, Associate Professor Dr. Imtiaz Yusuf from ISTEC IIUM, Malaysian author and Hinduism scholar Mr. Uthaya Sankar, and Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Azhar Muhammad Adil. The moderator for the first session will be Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Azhar Muhammad Adil. With that, I give the floor to the moderator.
Okay, thank you very much, Brother Naim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning. We are very delighted to have our distinguished speakers in this session one, the morning session. As Brother Wan Naim mentions, we have the first presenter, none other than Mr. Muhammad Azmi Abdul Hamid, or well known by the name Cikgu Azmi. Cikgu Azmi. He is now heading what we call a very important organizations, Malaysian Consultative Council of Islamic Organizations, or MAPIN, and has been appointed as the chairman of Consumer Advisory Council of the Ministry of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs. And then we have the second presenter, that is Dr. Mahmoud Vaizi from University of Tehran. I think he is, quite well known, and his specialization is language for majors in theology and bachelor's and master's degree program levels in universities of Tehran. And he was a deputy culture, Islamic Culture and Communications Organization in 2007 and 11, and also the attaché of the Islamic Republic of Iran to Qatar in 2002 and 2006. And then we have our third speaker, Associate Professor Dr. Imtiaz Yusuf, who's just joined ISTAC under IIUM, and I think he was attached with several organizations, and I think the recent one is from Mahidol University in Thailand. And last but not least, our brother Utaya Sankar, who is a writer, and what quite important of brother Utaya is he writes mainly in Bahasa Melayu. And he lectured in Bahasa Melayu, moral education and Malaysian studies in various colleges from 1999 to 2008. Let us start with the first presenter, Cikgu Muhammad Azmi, who will share with us religious tolerance and peaceful coexistence, a Malaysian experience. Cikgu Azmi, you're given between 20 to 30 minutes.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah wa bihi nasta'in ala umur dunya wa din wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man tabi'um bi ihsanin ila yaumiddin. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la syarika lah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Amma ba'd. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, distinguished speakers, the organizers, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for this invitation. It's an honor to be in this prestigious discussion or discourse about a very important subject. I was not required to present a paper as all the other speakers, so I am at ease to speak off the cuff. The idea of nation building of Malaysia, since we struggled through independence, was quite a unique experience as compared to many other nations. We were basically way back in the 15th centuries a nation of the Islamic sultanates, which has been existing in various parts in the corner of this world. You have the Malacca Sultanate, you have the Aceh Sultanate, Banten, the Fatani Sultanate, Sulu, Champa, Banjarmasin. All these were connections of what we call the Nusantara, the Malay archipelago. As history was decided, there was this era of colonization. And the Malay, or they call it the Tanah Melayu, the part of where we are now, we were colonized in 1511, and then we went down the road for almost 447, if I'm not mistaken, of colonialism by at least 5 countries. We have the Portuguese. We were also colonized for some time by the Dutch, and then came the British, and then came the Japanese, and we had 14 days of what we call the Bintang Tiga. The communists came in, and the British came back. And in 1957, we got independence. But before independence, there were a debate, engagement with the colonizers. As you know, colonizers act the way they want, that they want to have everything that will not only benefit them when they are colonizing, but beyond that. the post-colonizing era also came, and that's why the negotiation between the independence struggle was reading that while we definitely want independence, the colonizers had determined some preconditions on us. That when they colonized this land, they invited the other people from outside to come in to actually serve their interest. So the British came and they developed the whole system, the economic system, the legal system, the administration, and they started to get these people outside from India, mainland China, to serve the needs of the industries that they created. And that went many years, to the extent that the generations after that established themselves in the soil with this, then a new situation of a multi-racial, multi-religious scenario. When the negotiation of independence came about to the climax of actually writing down a constitution which was commissioned by the colonial, which did not actually involve any of the local leaders. It was all foreigners. We have an Australian, we have Indians, we have Pakistan, we have the British. They were writing the commissions, the constitutions. And of course, before that was done, there were concerns among the locals, especially organizations among the Malays. Now, I'm trying to be very, very short in this because we're going to touch on this subject, but the process has to be correctly presented in a perspective. Now, the local organizations, the Malays, who are almost 100% that was Muslims, they were making this debate about how do you make sure that the interest, the dominance, since we are so-called the sons of the soil, can be secured and ensured. So they were pushing a lot of things to this commission to write the constitution, and with a couple of months, almost a year or so, writing the constitutions, then the clauses, the provisions came in, and that is still now, you can read it, the constitutions, they call it the Federation Constitution. The clause that gives this very significant assurance of a multi-religious, multi-racial country. It was endorsed. We had the provision of, in the Constitution, of provision number 4 and provision 11. Number 4 is about provision of the Islamicity of this country, that Islam is the religion of the Federation. No, Article 3, sorry, it's not Article 4, right? Article 3 and Article 4, that people has the freedom to practice a religion in peace, but they cannot what you call spread non-Islamic religion to Muslims. That's Article 4. But we have another article, Article 11. You know, that it says that they are free to practice religion. So these 3 articles, in a way, was compromised by the people and also the colonizers, and then we had an agreement that the country will be such that you will be given independence with these clauses, with these articles. And thereby we started to build the country with these important articles that ensures that there is an inclusivity of other religions than Islam to be in this country. So that began what I should call the beginning of a country that tolerates people to have their own religion, but with an understanding and agreement that we say that this country is an Islamic country, and therefore that provision or that article has to be respected, that no non-Muslim should spread other religions to Muslims. Now with that agreement, everybody was welcomed. As a matter of fact, if you know the map of Malaysia, we have the northern part, we have Perlis, we have Kedah, the Kelantan, this is the northern region. There was already a lot of Buddhists who were there, and they were having their own temples and whatnot. And when we got independence on that year, 1957, we had this demarcation of the border of Thailand and Malaysia. And when it was declared independence, that was the border that we agreed. And therefore, the people who already resided in this part, we say that you are citizens. We gave them what we call the Josolai. That was the compromise. What is Josolai? We give them citizenship, irrespective whether there are Malay or non-Malay. Since you are born after the independence, you are automatically, you get your citizenship. So everybody was here with a warm welcome, with an intention that we should live peacefully, with the idea that this nation has to be shared, with the intention that this can be a model country. And therefore, we move on that. There was a skirmish that happened in 1969. We are not denying this history, because more of an economic situation that pushed this riot, the communal riot, famously the 13th May of 1969. But although blood was shed, like 2,000 lives was gone, but that taught us a lesson. You know, we have a framework of this nation building. One is the Constitution, and then another we have the Rukun Negara. That was devised, that was designed in a way to imbibe people to understand that we are here to be together and to build this country together. And so, with that exception of the 13th May 1969, the government had this idea to see the disparity in the way that, you know, the Malays, the Chinese, the Indian for that matter. In 1963, we got Sarawak and Sabah to come in, and we became Malaysia. But with all intention and purposes, we were trying to see the country in a setup that does not allow wealth being symbolized and dominated by certain race, because that was the idea of Tun Razak, the second prime minister. They say that, you know, there's a problem with this, where the Malays are poor, and we have the Chinese Indians because they are being put by the colonizers in the town, the new towns, they call it Kampung Baru, and they develop into cities and they get the benefit of the whole development. And the Malays are left behind because they are being treated as, you know, just farmers, and therefore there is disparity. And because of that, the spark of this political tension during the election and a race becomes the winner, that started the whole feeling of, animosity, and people start raising voices. And it happened on the 13th May 1969. Because of that, the government designed the new economic policy, which started in 1971, to actually engineer the whole development of the country on the basis of a more equitable distribution of wealth. And therefore, the government designed a lot of agencies and the processes of, giving priority to Bumiputras, quotas and whatnot. It all started with that, with the purpose of giving this balance of economic development. But on the other hand, we have this dimension of different ethnicity and different religions amongst the people. And the major ones are among the Malays, the Chinese and the Indians. And when Sabah and Sarawak came in, there are the Kadazans, the Ibans, the Murut, and the rest. Now those people are then being classified as Bumiputras, just like the Malays, and because majority of the Malays are Muslims, then the sensitivities of religions comes in when we started to engage with many phases of developments. All of a sudden, politics came in a very sharp manner. When politicians start to come up with issues of maintaining voters for their own party, and if the voters are more inclined to this religion or to this race, then the message will be much more emphasized on that. So the politics has come into play where we have this situation, the fundamentals of the nation building, where we had this agreement, where we have this consensus about the status of Islam and also the freedom of religion, came into a different light. People start discussing and people start debating that we should be moving forward in accordance to international law, where everybody should have a freedom for religion in the sense that, that crosses the border of the constitution that we have, that Muslims cannot be exposed to activities of other religions that can then create this tension. Now, there are a lot of initiatives that the Malaysian government did, and now they are trying to again renew. We have many efforts and many initiatives done by the government on one side and also the NGOs on another, and also plus the intellectuals. Now the government has been trying to always throw out these messages of unity and harmony, and making sure that people really understand the sensitivities of religion and race. So we have from way back Dr. Mahathir, when he was then the Prime Minister, he came out with this look is policy, but that was more of the social economic development of the country and looking away from the West. And that gives a message that we are here together, irrespective of religion and race. We should be in our own mold. And he created the Wawasan 2020. And there he quoted, we develop in our own mold. Acuan kita sendiri, he called it. And that moved on. And when Tun Abdullah Badawi came, then he came out with this Islam Hadari, this civilizational Islam, which also expounds this message of that, Islam is at peace with everybody, that we should design this country in a way that we can develop a unique civilization that was done by the Prophet, and we could create a model for Malaysia and pick up the essence of civilization of Islam and make it a frame for the whole country. With a lot of debates, of course, and there's always a dimension of politics inside, but then we moved on and we came with Najib Razak. And he expounded this wasatiyah, Islam of moderation. Again, the essence of the message is there, that we want to be, everybody must be a part of this family of Malaysia, with, again, understanding that there are already demarcated red lines that we should respect, and therefore we hope people to really be at home with this concept, because at that time the whole issue of extremism and violence was in the air, was promoted by the Western countries, that Islam connotes terrorism and all that. Then he came to champion this wasatiyah. And now Dr. Mahathir is back, and he came and was saying about there's something wrong with we educating our children on Islam. We have failed to build characters. We have failed to impart the real meaning of Islam, and he deliberated. I was in a dialogue with him, and we went very long discussion about how do we make people to really understand the Quran, to really practice what is in the Quran. He's not interested in giving names for this, So I said to him, no names, Dr. Mahathir, now we work. So with those kinds of phases that we are having in Malaysia, putting aside, I'm not going to go into the international level where we are always calling for, really fighting not against the so-called terrorists as been designed or phrased by the West, but this idea of Islamophobia, looking Islam in a negative way, trying even a propaganda against Islam. There's another debate at the international level. But at the Malaysian space, in politics and religious civil movement, I think the tolerance is there generally. There are instances like the latest one of the temple issue of the Hindus. There was an incident. There were a couple more before that. But I think as a whole, Malaysia is intact. I mean, there is a feeling of safety generally, But of course, we are always concerned that there are elements, there are people who still wants to persist. That, we should not have this kind of things that we have agreed upon. And they start abusing this freedom. They use the social media. Now, social media has been the deciding direction of the public. As the speaker just now, professor was telling about intellectuality and knowledge as a friend. Now, fake news and interpretation and misunderstanding has become the deciding factor. It goes through your whole handset. And it's so difficult for us to control, saying that this is not true. So the tolerance has been challenged. The whole idea of religious tolerance, racial tolerance has been challenged by by this kind of new way of communication. Let me just, I've got probably 5 minutes or so, am I correct? Yes. Okay. The role of religion and peaceful coexistence. We feel so comfortable in saying that religion now is even more so relevant to the whole of humanity. The idea of interfaith dialogue, interfaith discourse is most welcome. I think there's a lot of initiative being done in Malaysia by civil societies and by intellectuals. But does it seep down to the people? Does it been translated into communities? That's a big challenge, you know. We have 6,400 masajid, mosques, and 17,000 suraus. I personally talked to the people who are actually managing this institution, which is very important. The only complexity is because all mosques are in all states, which is directly under the rulers, except for Kuala Lumpur and Penang and Melaka and Sabah and Sarawak. But when you touch the masjid and the surau, it's under the, you know, the control of the Islamic councils, and is under the control of the sultans. With that little bit of complexity, still the message is this. I call them, look, the smallest base for a community, for a Muslim community, to actually educate tolerance, educate peace, and give the correct understanding of Islam, and develop a proper, correct understanding of Islam, will be these institutions, the masjid and the surah. Now, because we have not approached these small institutions all over the country, then we have this gap between a forum like this, a discourse like this will only be with us. It remains with us. It may be possible, but it may be difficult also to talk to the policy makers, the people in the parliaments or in the state assembly, because they have some interests, other interests more important than what we are talking now. But still we can engage with them. But to me, this tolerance has to become like a bottom-up. The communication must go down, and we have to engage with people on the ground, because that's the arena where the translation of tolerance and peace will actually happen. We may have political disputes and people fight and campaign, and then you shake hands and you get your part of your allowance and all that. Then we are peaceful. We don't quarrel and box each other, do we? But the people on the ground, they actually act. They actually translate. So the role of religion has to be very much on the ground. The understanding of what Islam is about, the understanding that Islam relates to your life, your attitudes, your thinking, your emotions, has to be there. I'm not going to define what religion relates to peaceful coexistence that will be deliberated by the other panelists, but I'm giving you that scenario of Malaysia, that we need to move on. But the challenges is an uphill task for not only among us as probably the intellectuals, not only among the civil societies, not only among the politicians, but more so on the leaders on the ground. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you very much, Cikgu Azmi. I think it is quite important that we promote what we call it tolerance and peace. And I think the main point, Cikgu Azmi, towards the end of his presentations, that how can we have the masjid and suraus in Malaysia to take that role? And taking into consideration surahs and masjids are under the decision of the religious council, which is directly under the Sultan's power, then we have to do something. I call upon everyone, including Cikgu Azmi, to penetrate this Majlis Agama Islam, to become the member of the Majlis. Otherwise, we cannot change these things. This is the most important council in the country, that people like you and us should be the member and transform the things. And I think the teaching and the promoting of these things should be there, and we have to put it one of the important agenda. I think, thank you very much, Cikgu Azmi, on that note. We now continue with the second presenter, Dr. Mahmud Vaizi, that will talk on the role of rationality-based dialogues in the peaceful coexistence of the followers of religions.